The moment you stop waiting for someone to rescue you and stop expecting the world to treat you fairly is the day you actually become dangerous. Most people spend their entire lives trapped inside a psychological fairy tale, playing a game whose rules were rigged against them from the very start. But once you see how the board is actually laid out, you can never go back to being naive. Today, we are dismantling the illusion. If you are a deep thinker, you operate with high trait introspection. You don't just move through life, you analyze every glance, every silence, and every micro-expression. You crave genuine connection and assume that if you love deeply, sacrifice consistently, and remain endlessly patient, others will eventually do the same for you. But here is the brutal truth. Human psychology does not work on automatic reciprocity. By relying on words, hoping for fairness, and hiding your boundaries, you are unknowingly setting yourself up to be exploited. You become a perfect target for political games, corporate manipulators, and conditional relationships. You think you're being virtuous by staying out of the game, but refusing to play doesn't make you noble. It just makes you a piece in someone else's strategy. To survive, you must transition from being merely over-analytical to being dangerously aware. Let's look at how this plays out in the real world through 3 historical and psychological case studies. Consider the experience of Robert Greene early in his career. Working as a television researcher in the 1990s, he was by far the most talented researcher on his team, finding 80% of the stories for the show. Because he was delivering massive results, he assumed his work would speak for itself. During a meeting, his boss chewed him out for not paying attention. In his mind, Greene scoffed. Why did pretending to listen to a boring meeting matter when he was doing 80% of the work? Several months later, he was fired. Greene committed a classic error that many deep thinkers make, entering the work world naively, believing that doing a good job is all that matters. But any group of 3 or more people creates politics, egos, and power struggles. If you ignore the political game and neglect the egos of those in charge, your results won't save you. Doing excellent work without playing the political game is a fast track to getting replaced by someone who knows how to manage perception. Now contrast this with the ultimate strategist, Cleopatra. Historically, coins reveal she wasn't a ravishing, flawless beauty. She had a prominent beak-like nose and average features. Yet she seduced Julius Caesar, a brilliant strategist and intellectual, and Mark Antony, his rugged military successor. How? Because she understood that words are cheap, but theater and spectacle are irresistible. When the Roman Empire threatened to reduce Egypt to a mere colony, Cleopatra was in a position of extreme weakness. Instead of begging for fairness, she targeted Caesar's specific psychological weakness, his love of grand drama. She arrived on a spectacular gold barge on the Nile River, surrounded by women fanning her with palm leaves in custom-designed outfits. By creating a breathtaking theatrical experience, she completely bypassed Caesar's analytical mind and captured his desires, making him her protector. She didn't complain about her lack of military leverage, she manufactured leverage out of his psychological gaps. Case Study 3. Marilyn Monroe's Dual Personas. Look at Marilyn Monroe. Born into deep poverty and raised in orphanages, she was starved for love. At a young age, she realized that her physical charms gave her power in a world where she had none. On camera, she made love to the lens because she desperately craved the public's adoration. This deep, non-verbal hunger made her incredibly charismatic, but the icon on the screen was a total artistic construction. In her private life, Marilyn could walk into a New York bar without makeup and absolutely nobody would recognize her. The public was seduced not by a real person, but by a meticulously crafted feminine archetype. Deep thinkers often fail because they insist on showing their unedited, raw selves to a world that only responds to curated personas. They confuse being completely open with being authentic, forgetting that in the social theater, your presentation is your power. Have you ever poured your soul into helping a friend or partner through their absolute worst moments, only to watch them completely disappear once they got back on their feet? You stay loyal through their chaos, but the moment you speak up about your own exhaustion, the room suddenly becomes dead silent. This is the brutal exposure of an unconscious contract. You believed your self-sacrifice bought permanent loyalty, but human beings are not naturally loyal to suffering. They are naturally drawn to emotional benefit. The moment your usefulness fades or you stop validating their self-image, their energy changes. They withdraw quietly, not because they are evil, but because their connection to you was always conditional. To stop being a victim of these dynamics, we must examine the deep psychological structures that govern our minds. The default mode network and the trap of overthinking. For a deep thinker, analytical reflection isn't a deliberate choice. It's like breathing. Neurologically, this is driven by hyperactivation in your default mode network, the brain network responsible for introspection, memory, and creative connection. You were constantly engaged in metacognition, which means you were thinking about your own thinking, mapping your own mind, and analyzing the hidden roots of every choice. But this beautiful gift has a dark side. It is incredibly easy to turn this microscope on things that weren't meant to be analyzed so closely. You ruminate, dissecting a simple sentence someone said years ago, looking for hidden patterns where there are none. Your brain literalizes feelings, meaning you think and feel simultaneously. This hypersensitivity allows you to read micro-expressions and shift your energy to match others, but it also leaves you completely exhausted by daily social friction. This brings us to Carl Jung's concepts of the persona and the shadow of abandonment. The persona is the necessary social mask we wear to navigate society, the protector, the empath, the useful high achiever, or the agreeable helper. But the danger arises when you mistake your mask for your actual identity. You suppress your boundaries and overextend yourself to preserve this good person image. Why do you do this? Because deep inside your shadow lies a hidden fear of abandonment. You unconsciously believe that if you are useful enough, agreeable enough, and intelligent enough, someone will finally rescue you and carry your psychological weight. This is why many emotionally wounded deep thinkers become hypercompetent. You learn to solve every single problem alone because childhood taught you that vulnerability is dangerous. But this hypercompetence is actually a trauma response. Beneath your calm, self-reliant exterior is the grief of realizing that nobody was truly coming to rescue you. Self-interest and the myth of human sincerity. We must also confront our massive capacity for self-deception. We lie to ourselves on a daily basis because we are driven primarily by unconscious emotional impulses and hormones, which our logical minds later rationalize. We claim we are nice or giving out of pure love, but often our desire to please others is a strategic attempt to gain power and secure our own interests. Machiavelli noted 500 years ago that everyone operates fundamentally from self-interest. Even when people behave altruistically, they are calculating a psychological return, reputation, validation, or the relief of guilt. When someone betrays you, it isn't a personal attack. It is simply a human being choosing their own self-interest over yours. If you expect people to remain loyal when it no longer benefits their psychology, you are denying human nature. Loyalty is never automatic. It exists only as long as it serves both parties. Now that we have dismantled the illusions, how do we use this knowledge to become dangerously smart? Here are 3 psychological shifts you must implement immediately. Tip 1. Treat words as performance. Trust only patterns. Never take what someone says at face value. Words are free, cheap, and used primarily for perception management. When someone makes a promise, pay attention only to their long-term behavior. If their words say they care, but their patterns show neglect, believe the patterns. This single shift makes you incredibly difficult to manipulate because you completely strip verbal manipulators of their primary weapon, empty explanations. Tip 2. Hide your weakness and set surgical boundaries. In a highly competitive world, showing weakness does not build authentic connection. It invites attack. Predators and strategic competitors do not respect vulnerability. They exploit it as ammunition for later. Keep your struggles and insecurities private. and work on them behind closed doors. When dealing with others, set firm, surgical boundaries. Do not over-explain or beg for understanding. Remember, the moment you limit access to yourself, hidden entitlement surfaces immediately. Let their reaction to your boundaries show you who they really are. Tip 3. Embrace the game and play strategically. Stop pretending you are above the game. Refusing to be strategic doesn't protect you. It just makes you a passive piece on someone else's board. Admit your own flaws, your own narcissism, and your own strategic interests. Once you accept that you are in a competition, you can stop feeling guilty about having boundaries and positioning yourself for leverage. Be a chameleon when necessary. Adapt to your political environment instead of forcing your raw self onto a system that demands a mask. Realizing that nobody is coming to save you can feel incredibly cold at first, but if you sit in that silence long enough, you will realize something liberating. If nobody is coming to save you, then nobody is stopping you either. The keys to your psychological prison have always been in your own hands. You no longer need to exhaust yourself performing perfection, begging for validation, or hoping for a fair world. You can step onto the board not as a victim, but as a conscious player. Stop waiting for footsteps outside your door. Become the person who opens it. If this video clicked for you and you are ready to stop being a piece and start being a player, write "I see it now" in the comments below. Let me know. What was the exact moment you realized nobody was coming? If you want to master the laws of power, deep perception, and human psychology, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share this video with another deep thinker who needs to wake up. See you in the next video.